pleasure aspect of getting the money. Something I'd like to find out how you bring out in the questioning is, whose responsibility is it how they spend their money when the employer is giving the money?
I would take the next step. See, for me, then after I did that, I would say, okay, I can't decide how many of you, so how could we do this? Could we maybe put an hour in the end of each day and then quit at noon on Friday?
Yeah, right.
Or something like that, you know.
Well, what
find
she's
another
doing,
way.
by the way, so here's another very general strategy. So we talked about pace and lead, and then another interesting thing you can do is you can actually, like an Erickson would always prescribe the symptom, prescribe the problem. Prescribing the problem means instead of trying to make people do what they're not going to do, you know, tell them to do what they're going to do anyway, and then fit it in somewhere else. So what she's saying is, well, so tell them to quit at noon, but they're going to work an extra half an hour each of the other days, you know, until they get there. Yeah, so that could be something. So here again, you pace, chunk it down. Also, what you could do is, there's another way you can chunk it down, which is to say, how many minutes before the end of Friday is how much money going to, you know, or how much motivation and money worth. So for example, that's when I was saying, if I pay them midday on Wednesday, would they not work the rest of the week? Because I don't know if that would be the case. And there's where I start chunking. When does this time thing about if I pay them stop? Is it really true that if I pay people at midday on Wednesday that they wouldn't work the whole second half of the week? Why wouldn't they just not work the first half of the week up until they got paid and then start working because of the motivation?
How about if you paid them Monday?
Yeah, right.
Well, that's what we did. Our own personal experience. My brother and I were in a business with my father along quite a few years ago, and we ran into almost an identical situation. And I think that he paid him on Friday at noon because it was traditional. But he had the same argument that once you paid him, they weren't worth anything. And so what we did was, my brother and I talked him into paying them on Monday at noon, and if they didn't work the rest of the week, we'd fire them. Which was the only way we could get him to go along with this. But once we started paying them at noon on Monday, we found out that they worked more. They were more anxious to work even on Saturday because by the weekend they didn't have as much money as they thought they were going to have. You know, then you get into that whole game.
Well, yeah. So here's where I was also thinking is, I mean, this is where the whole thing about beliefs and stuff gets really fun, because what you can do is you can also go. This is where you start chunking up and going to reinforcement here instead of chunking down. So you go, all right, some people work only for money, the more enlightened ones don't. Well, who do you want working for you? The ones that only work for money or the ones that don't? How are you going to tell? And that's what you can say is, well, give them the money at the beginning of the week, and the ones that, I mean, two things will happen. Either you'll weed out the ones that you really don't want working for you, that are just money hungry. Number two is, because they, like he said, they get to the end of the week and they don't have the money, they have to learn how to be motivated by something other than money. So by reinforcing, how do you teach people to jump levels and start to become enlightened workers? You know, well, you pay them at the beginning of the week, and you know they're going to have to learn to manage their money. So, in other words, that now you jump levels on what are you teaching them. Okay, so change frame size.
Well, and actually, that's almost everything I was going to say about changing frame size, except I was going to put that into a future context. I was going to say, now, right now, you have this kind of people. You pace it. You know, you have these unenlightened people. But can you imagine a time a year from now where using those methods, you will have gotten all your employees to where they're motivated in all these other ways, and what a better environment that would be.
Yeah. So in other words, what he's saying is, I go to frame size and I can say, well, instead of just looking at it this Friday at the end of this week and for that half of a day, let's start taking and looking at history of, let's really change frame size, look at history of working behavior, and that kind of thing. And let's look at what other companies do as well. If you're going to change frame size, you'd say, let's find companies who have people, and how do other companies do it to deal with the situation? Again, I pace it. This is true. What do other companies do to deal with that? I mean, this is the way we've been doing it all along, and the problem is that doing it this way, see, another thing I would do is I'd leverage the lifetime of experience thing.
Yeah.
The person goes, I'm doing this because it's always happened this way. So I'd say, well, since it's always happened this way, maybe you should try something different. It would, it would be different. Now, this is always one of the things that people say is, well, I know this is true because it's always been this way. And what you do is you say, well, how much longer are you going to keep doing it then before you prove to yourself that it isn't going to work, to accomplish what you want? So you actually pace that and say, well, since it's always ended up with the same result, then let's try something different. Was the lifetime of experience in trying different modes of reinforcing people? Now, if the person says, yeah, I've tried everything in the book, then I can say, great, now let me know what you've tried, because I want to pace them. I don't want to argue with them. And they might give me some interesting information that would open up some channels for me. So I start to change the frame size.
The risky pace, go back to the other one, people are motivated to sell their money. Oh, that's good. Now, because they're only motivated by money, we cut down the restroom, we cut down the benefits, and then getting the other person to the connoisseur with polarity response.
Right.
Well, we want better quality, we want more from this, we want more from that. And
What
the
do
more you argue towards cutting down, the more they get invested in the road.
Yeah, so actually what he's doing, he's saying, well, I can force the person to go to a counterexample by saying, well, since this is true, then who cares what their working conditions are? Since they're only motivated by money, let's give them more money, and we won't provide them with pencils to write with or something, or we won't provide them with insurance benefits, we'll just give them money, or something like that. And actually what will happen is the person will have to realize, well, wait a minute, I guess people do want more than just money in their work. Sometimes people do want prestige, they do want to accomplish things. And by the way, I would say in general, if I'm talking about business strategies like that, almost invariably, the best way to go is to an analogy of some sort. In other words, then especially if you don't know their business, you don't want to be talking with them about their business. So I tend to go to analogy like with rats. And so I'll use a lot of analogies of things like a ship captain and their crew. I mean, in this case, if you want to go to an analogy, you could talk about Captain Bligh. First of all, you talk about how they're the ship captain, they've got to get the crew working on their boat. And how does the ship captain go about getting their crew to work? Well, we know that the crew's going to go out and they could get drunk on the shore if they get their shore leave too soon, etc., etc. And then instead of actually talking with this person about his company and his people and his lifetime of experience, which is going to start getting ego in the way, and who are you to tell me how to run my business? I go to running ships, and I make a nice analogy, and then we start exploring other options inside of that analogy. And so I would say for those of you that work in a business, especially if you're working in a meeting or something where people are going to start arguing with each other and stuff, go to analogies and kind of set up the options and the beliefs and then come back. One of the things that a general strategy is is this. If people are stuck on the concrete, go to the abstract. People are stuck in the abstract, go to the concrete. You'll often find that if you want to open up options, rather than try to confront it on the same level, you're going to shift levels. For example, remember we were saying, if someone's got an identity issue and I want to open up some more options, what I might want to do is to come down to specific behaviors, rather than trying to confront identity things. If somebody's got a particular behavior thing that they're trying to deal with, I might want to jump up to beliefs or to identity in order to find where my options are. So that's kind of I think if you want to think of strategies, let's review, we went over the different patterns. Let's also review the strategies that we had.